when I was going through all that, I had a guy reach out to me through social media, and he kind of like really encouraged me in that time in my life. And then he was like, I'm going to help you grow and be successful. And I was like, okay. I was like, let's do this thing. And then he networked me with another guy. And then he started helping me, like sending me clients. And these people were actually from LA. They started sending me clients, and they were like, hey, like if you reach out to this person, then it'll be like a lead. So they started giving me kind of like leads on different people to connect with through social media, and it started growing my page further, and also started giving me business in the marketing. So that was another thing that happened to me that was really awesome. And I just feel like all this was just aligned with my purpose. Like, it's crazy, but I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, people don't really understand, like, when they hear my story or my life, like, because he said something was a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence.
Welcome to the Power of Influence. My name is John Haremza. I am your host, and I am super, super excited to be here with April Jackson. And April, I'm super excited. I know you mentioned you live here and also in LA. Is that right?
Yes, I do. I go back and forth between Vegas and LA. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's two great places to go back and forth to.
It is.
Yeah, so where did you grow up?
So I'm actually from South Carolina. So
okay, I hear a little bit of that accent.
I have like a country accent, and I also lived in Texas for 10 years. So I have a little mixture of like South Carolina, Texas, and then I lived in California and, Vegas. So it's kind of a little mixture of everything.
So where do you like the best?
Honestly, I like California the best. It's my
Really?
favorite.
Are you in LA?
Yeah, I like LA, but, Vegas is still fun. I love Vegas too, but I just like the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So, gosh, they got all those fires going on there. That is just crazy.
Yeah.
Are you anywhere near that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild what's happening there. But anyway, we're talking about the power of influence,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know you are an influencer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I want to talk about that because I think everybody aspires, or many people want to be an influencer. And so maybe we kind of back up a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about how that happened.
Okay, so it kind of started in Texas. So it's kind of a long story, but I was in Texas and I met a guy. His name was Brandon, and he was like talking to me, and he was like, hey, I think you would be a good model. And I was like, model? Like me? Be a model? I was like, I don't really see myself as a model. Like, I'm short. Like, yeah, I've always been short, I was like, I don't really see that. And he was like, no, you're beautiful. And I was like, really? Like, I just didn't see that. I was like, are you sure about this? He's like, no. He was like, you would be a great model. And so I was like, okay. And Brendan, he actually sings in like the choir of the Sunday service, Kanye
Mm-hmm.
West. So he sings in like the Sunday service choir. And he was like, I want to do a whole photo shoot with you. And so that was kind of like my start, like into the influencer realm. And it was kind of a whole experience. So they put like a wig on my head, and I wasn't used to that, and then they did like the makeup, and but inside of me, like, I always knew like that I had like a purpose on my life, and that I had to walk in that purpose. And so I knew that it was like kind of like God like aligning me with my purpose when I met him. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I started taking like pictures, and then one thing led to another, and I just kept doing that, and here I am today.
Wow. So how long ago was this?
Oh my gosh, probably I started my Instagram like 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started 7 years ago on my Instagram, started like really growing it. But like I said, like I always knew like that there was something more to this,
Okay. So the thing with Brandon, that was 7 years ago?
Brennan.
Brennan?
Yeah,
Okay.
Brennan. Yeah, so.
Hey, Brennan.
Brennan, yeah. So with Brennan, it happened a while back, yeah.
Okay.
But then that kind of like launched me into the direction I needed to go, where I started doing like the social media. So I started
Okay.
like taking more pictures, and then I just kept growing my Instagram, and it gained like attraction.
So, I don't want to, pry or anything, but, earlier we had somebody on the podcast
Right.
who actually has a foundation,
Right.
And a nonprofit that supports, abuse,
Right.
and all this type of stuff like human trafficking and all that kind of stuff. It's a
Right.
great. If you look back in my podcast, you'll find it. It was really a great podcast. So, I mean, I don't have to go there if you don't want to, but what was the situation? Was it?
So it was like a very like verbal abuse, but it kind of like escalated, and it had gotten really, really bad at one point. And he threw like a cell phone charger at my face, and
Oh
I
my God.
bled. And that was kind of like one of the things, but it kept getting worse and worse. It wasn't as much physical. It was a little bit more verbal, but at times it was a little bit physical,
Yeah.
and it just got really hard on me, and I couldn't do it anymore. I knew I had to get out of that situation. It wasn't beneficial to me. So I'm really thankful that I overcame that in my life,
Yeah.
So.
It's. I think actually verbal abuse can be worse than physical, because
Right.
physical you can heal from very quickly.
Right.
But the mental and the verbal abuse can last a lifetime.
Right, it's true. And even like nightmares, and it's very traumatizing. Sometimes every now and then I'll have like a nightmare from it, and it was very traumatizing experience, but I'm just really grateful that I came out.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not funny, but
Yeah.
but it's interesting.
Right.
How people that are in those types of relationships, and maybe it's not abusive, maybe it's just they're really, really unhappy or whatever.
Right.
And it's just so difficult for people to leave relationships, both sides, male and female.
Right.
And the different things, that happen. I mean, I don't go in a different direction here, but I mean, you look at, World War II, and we drop the bombs on, Tokyo and Hiroshima, and here we're doing business with them only a few years later, and we're like best friends. And in relationships, people have challenges, and they literally can possibly destroy one or the other's life or their own life
Right.
because of a really, really bad relationship.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so what did you do before? Where we were talking about that, and I think we got sidetracked.
Well, I was actually a makeup artist.
Oh.
So I just did makeup. That was like one of the things I did. I've done tons of jobs. I did makeup. I was actually a 911 dispatcher at one point. Helped
Oh,
people.
wow, that was probably interesting.
Yeah, that was another thing I did. But I just, I did a few different jobs, to be honest
Okay.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you mentioned earlier also that it was like your calling,
Right.
And so can you dig a little deeper into that? What does that mean to you?
So I honestly feel like everybody's born with a purpose and a destiny. And like with me, like I always had this inner feeling inside of me, like that kind of like pushed me in the direction I need to go. Like I would have dreams, like it would be like wild. Like even my mom was like I would see things sometimes even before they happened, and then my mom would come back to me and be like, I can't believe you saw that. And I'm like, I know, Mom, it's crazy, but like I feel like inside of me, like I always knew that there was a purpose bigger than myself. And I do believe in God, and I believe that He's kind of like led me in the directions that I needed to go.
So
Yeah.
really, it sounds like a very, very powerful, intuition or a sense of
Right.
knowing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that
for
kind of is
sure.
deep inside of you.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people have that, but they fight against it. They
Exactly.
get stuck in the trench and, fall into that victim mode, and they don't want to get out. Instead of,
Right.
something maybe eating, like tapping on their shoulder that they want to do something, and, people around them. And
Right.
just like we talked about relationships, same thing, people have these dreams or these ideas inside of them, and they let other people's negative attitude or opinion just keep them down, right?
Right.
So congratulations for breaking through that and coming out on top, and
Right.
that takes a lot of courage.
yeah. It was definitely a difficult time in my life, and I remember at one point it had gotten like so bad that I didn't know how I was going to get out of it, and I literally just prayed like to God. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but if you get me out of this, like I promise I won't go back.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things that I just knew I had to get out,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And you said something also earlier about when it was, what's the name, Brendan?
Brennan, yeah.
Brennan was saying you're beautiful, and you're like, no,
Right.
not really. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because it's like kind of like the obvious, but
Right.
yet you didn't see yourself that way.
Right. Yeah. I never actually saw myself as beautiful. Like, even as a kid, like, people were like, oh, you're so pretty and this and that. You know, my mom would dress me up, have me in like pageants, you know, and then going like to church on Sunday. We'd have all the like frills everywhere,
Yeah.
you know, curls in the hair. Like, even as a kid, she'd put little makeup on me. I'd walk across the room, do a little modeling skit for them. Even as a kid, you know.
Right.
And so, like, everybody would always tell me that, but I never really saw myself that way.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
can tell just getting to know you and meeting you here
Right.
right now in person that you seem like a very humble person. You have a very humble demeanor about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Like, I feel like I've seen a lot of people, like influencers and different people at times, even friends, like they can become successful or they can like grow in like their platform and use it the wrong way. And I think it's important, like if you have like a really strong platform or if you have a lot of people following you, that you build that platform to help other people and not tear people down. So that's kind of like
Wow.
what I feel like part of my purpose is like to build other people. That's why I started doing like the social media marketing. I help build people's profiles, you know, their brands, all that stuff, because it actually helps them in the long run. But yeah, like I said, like I think it's really important when you have a strong platform to make sure you're using it in the right way, because it can be really destructive if you're using that platform to destroy people instead of build people up.
Yeah, wow, that's so powerful because, you know, we talk about the power of influence, right?
Yeah.
You know, you look at people of influence because they may be a celebrity or maybe they're an athlete, but they're not a good person,
Right.
right? But yet they use their influence in, you know, not really good ways,
Right.
And so I find that very interesting. And so I want to hear about your platform, but, you know, one of the things I want to back up to, and now I just like lost it, what I wanted to back up to. But so let's talk about your platform,
Right.
and I'll see if it pops back into my head.
Okay. Just
So yeah,
what
can
I
you
do
give me,
exactly.
yeah, what is your platform? Oh yeah, now I remember. So we were talking about you know, the power of influence and
Right.
such, and you know, credibility,
Right.
right? Because you know, that's the other thing. I look at myself. I've been, you know, 36 years in business, and one of the things I'm most proud of, you can Google me and no one say anything bad about me.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that's credibility is something that takes time to build, right? To
Right.
build that credibility, to build that trust, and literally it can be lost in a moment, you know,
Right.
with one, you know, decision
Right.
or act, you know, that you let yourself slip. Because I mean, you have to have a conscious. I mean, it's in a person, but in the same notion with influences around us, and you know, peer pressure and everything else, it can make someone make a bad decision that can
Right.
haunt them for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that you have a platform that you really believe in. That is, like you said, it's a calling. So what is your platform? What is the main message, or what are you really standing for, or what do you stand against?
So what I try to do is really just help build people, like as far as like their brands and their growth. You know, it's more of like focusing in, like I have models I work with, like in LA, and then I have different people like that want to grow like their business. So it's kind of different. Like sometimes it's models, sometimes it's somebody's business, sometimes it's somebody's church. There's so many different things that I do, but I help grow their platform. So I help grow it and push, you know, like their followers and help their growth. So that's what I do, is actually help them grow their platform so they can be successful.
So
and
it's
it
probably a little
opens
bit of
up-
a discovery,
Yeah.
when you have a potentially new client, to learn as much about their business and what
Right.
they really are trying to accomplish,
Right.
and to see if you can, possibly, help them in that direction.
Right, exactly. And sometimes it's also collaborations, what I was talking
Right.
about like earlier. Like I'll collaborate with people too. And it's just simple things that are powerful that you do on Instagram. You can literally, tag that person or that business, that collaboration, whether it's a med spa whether it's a church, whatever it is, and then you put that on your page, and then, you know, they see, okay, well, she's got 2.4 million followers, and then you're tagged in that. That's powerful because you have somebody who's got influence, and then you're tagging your business or your brand with that, and so it gives more attraction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, you hear about especially social media influencers, right? And you hear, you know, that some of these people are making fortunes,
Right.
right? And so, how does that really work?
Well, I mean, I
Because I've
feel
also
like,
heard that
yeah.
people saying, I mean, I've got 50 million views or whatever,
Right.
and TikTok like pays them nothing. Like,
Right.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I feel like it also has to do with like you putting your part in there outside of the social media. Like, yeah, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you can use all these platforms, you have YouTube, but you're also having to like put yourself out there, like whether it's going to a business and saying, hey, like I want to do this collaboration with you, and this is the price that I offer to do this collaboration. You know, you have to really be an entrepreneur and go after
Right.
it. You know, you can't, it's just not going to fall in your lap. You're going to have to go after it. And
wow. Now, folks, did you hear that? I
Right.
mean, you know, you don't fall to the top of the mountain. You got to climb there. It takes work. It takes
Right.
effort, and being aggressive. Like you
Right.
said, it's just not going to fall in your lap.
Right, exactly. So you really have to just go after it, and you know that's what I continue to do. And you know, like I feel like it's inside of me to want to be better. Like it's always inside of me to want to be better.
Yeah.
Like I feel like my biggest competition is myself. Like nobody else. Like every
Yeah.
morning I have to better myself. Like how can I work on me to be a better person? And if I'm better, then I influence people better. You know,
Yeah.
it's all about like that inner work inside of you. And I'm still working on myself. I don't have it all together yet.
Yeah,
but
well,
I'm
none of
still
us.
working on myself, you know?
If anybody says they do, then they need to go back to personal growth to realize they don't. Right. You know, it's a work in progress, no question.
Right.
But it's kind of interesting because you talk about, you know, going after it, right? And
Right.
people are always waiting for their ship to come in, and sometimes you need to swim out to it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so anyway, you know, one of the other things I want to ask you is, like, I mean, we talked to Brendan. Is it Brendan?
Brennan.
Brennan.
Yeah.
I'm so terrible with
It's
names.
okay.
Brennan. You know, that was kind of a moment, like, you know, that really changed the course of your life and made you
Right.
start seeing yourself maybe a little bit differently.
Right.
From all that, you know, maybe that verbal abuse knocking you down, right? And
Right.
all of a sudden somebody sees you a different way for who you really are.
Right.
And it, you know, maybe brought something out and you started to believe it, right? You started saying, you know, maybe I am this person, right?
Right.
And so what other, like, real moments that you can think back that made a major difference where, because, you know, we have two people, right?
Right.
Identical circumstance, and the decision determines the outcome, right?
Right.
And so you think about different things that happened in your life, and you know, maybe a different decision would have completely changed the course.
I'm thinking about this. You mean like,
Well,
explain
maybe
a little
it's
bit more
maybe
detail.
it's a client or you know, something within this, you know, growing this social media presence
Right.
that was a real, like, elevator in your personal,
Okay.
you know, in your career.
Right. Yeah. So when I was doing the social media and I was kind of going through some of my hard times that I was going through at the same time,
Right.
because you know, like work never stops. So you can have personal things going on, but you still have to keep working. So when I was going through all that, I had a guy reach out to me through social media, and he kind of like really encouraged me in that time in my life. And then he was like, you know, I'm going to help you grow and be successful. And I was like, okay. I was like, let's do this thing. And then he networked me with another guy. And then he started helping me, like sending me clients. And these people were actually from LA. They started sending me clients, and they were like, hey, like if you reach out to this person, then, you know, it'll be like a lead. So they started giving me kind of like leads on different people to connect with through social media, and it started growing my page further, and also started giving me business in the marketing. So that was another thing that happened to me that was really awesome. And I just feel like all this was just aligned with my purpose. Like, it's crazy, but I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, you know, people don't really understand, like, when they hear my story or my life, like, because he said something was a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. Some people may, but I don't. I believe, like, that everything in my whole life has been aligned the way it was supposed to, even to this moment, was supposed to happen. Nothing is coincidence. Like, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe it's part of your purpose and your destiny. Even the good and the bad will work out for good if you see it the right way. And so I think that every little situation in my life has been aligned for a purpose and something bigger than me. And I don't think anything is a coincidence.
Yeah, and you listen to it.
Right.
Listen to that inner being.
Yeah, I believe that like with all my
intuition.
heart. And it's like it keeps leading me like every time in the right direction. And when I go in the wrong direction, it steers me back in the right direction. It's wild. Sometimes I go in the wrong direction and he's like, okay, you got to turn back around. You know what I'm saying? I feel that inside of me. So
can you mention any big clients that you've been able to really put on the map?
I can't really actually say their name because it's like confidential, but I have different clients that I do work with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your next like level that you see yourself going? What are you shooting for right now?
Next level, I think just to continue to grow my personal brand, my business, you know, and then also just going higher up, networking with people of, you know, influence also that help, you know, I think all that's important.
Right. Yeah, you know, the thing is when you think about social media, it doesn't just happen. You mentioned you have to work at it. I mean, you have to do the engagements, and you have to be really involved, right? And so, what would you recommend for people looking to, you know, be that influencer, you know, in the social media world? What would be, you know, like three
I would
really
say one,
great
like, don't
tips
ever
that
give up on
they
yourself.
could,
I think sometimes
apply?
people get discouraged with the growth process, and if they don't see themselves growing as fast as they want it to, they get upset or they get discouraged and they feel like, oh, this isn't worth it, or I just want to quit. Like, I've had so many clients, they'll come, and if it's not going as fast as they want it to, they get upset, and they'll even get mad at you at times. Why is it not going as fast? I'm like, you know, you have to be patient. Like, and they'll even get mad at you at times. Why is it not going as fast? I'm like, you know, you have to be patient. Like, everything takes
Patient
time.
and consistent.
You know, it's like you don't build something like a big mansion overnight. Like, it takes time, you know? So I think just like giving yourself grace too, and knowing like that even mistakes are a part of the process. Like, you're going to make mistakes, you know, but don't give up on yourself, you know? And then just having grace on yourself, knowing like, hey, you're going to make some mistakes along the way, but it's okay, because like even Michael Jordan, you know, he was making all those shots, but he was also missing the shots from time to time. So it's like, you're going to miss the shots, but the worst thing you could do is not try, or not try to make the shot. You have to try, you know?
Yeah. And you're, you know, mentioned earlier, you wake up, you know, like, how can I be better? What do I need to work on? You know, one of the things, you know, I depending on what your business is, right? You know, pick out like a half a dozen things that really can move the needle, really make a difference in a person's business, and then ask yourself, okay, how am I doing? You know, I look at my business, there's a handful of different things that really make a difference, and then be kind of doing like almost like a personal checkup, right? You know, how am I doing here? How am I doing here? And the key to that is being really honest with yourself. And people, I mean, because they complain all the time about everything, right? And why something isn't happening. But if they really step back and looked at what they're doing, the picture probably is fairly clear what they need to do and what they need to do different or do more of, right? And so it sounds like you kind of unconsciously are almost doing that. Right?
Yeah, I think like you said, kind of like the self-evaluation is like really important. Like, even like with the new year coming up, people put their like goals and things that they want to accomplish. Like, I literally do like a lot of self like evaluation. Like, I went into my room, nobody's there. I literally just look at my life and I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at. I even Google like AI, like, who is April Jackson, or, you know, like whatever, and see what they say about me. And I'm like, is this what I want to be known for? Like, I do a lot of self-evaluation, and I'm like, if this isn't what I want to be known for, like, how do I improve who I am and what I want to be known for? You know, like, I think all that's really important, like really just digging deep inside and really going inside and be like, is this what I want to be known for? Like, I want to leave like a legacy for
So
my
really
kids.
asking yourself
Yeah,
questions,
you know,
right?
and just like really like looking at, you know, and then also having powerful people or individuals that can look at you and say, hey, like I have a lot of those in my life, and they'll look at me and be like, hey, you need to do better in this area. You need to clean up this area. You need to straighten up here, you know? And I think just like listening to like constructive criticism is important too, because sometimes you have like blind spots on your life that you don't see, but other people see that. And then if you're able to like not take it offensive and say, okay, he's actually right, I need to fix this and work on it. You know, like I have a lot of mentors in my life that will literally tell me, hey, you need to straighten up and do this better. And I'm like, yeah, he's right. You know?
You know, that because a lot of people, they do get defensive.
Right.
Right. And I think, you know, like you're open because you have the mindset, I want to grow, I want to improve, and you're looking for input and advice. And I want to come back to that. But one of the things you said, you know, is commitment. Right? How serious are you about something? And one of the things like in my business, and I think this would really apply almost in anyone's business, because everybody wants this dream life. Right? But what are they willing to do? Right? And when it really comes down to it, they abandon things. You mentioned, you know, we just had New Year's Eve, right? Or, you know, what is it, the 11th or 7th today or something like that, 9th? I lose track. I work out of my home. Every day's the same. You know, it's just great. Right? But
exactly.
But yes, so, you know, asking yourself how bad or how much do you really want something, right? And I ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, 10 being I am going to do whatever it takes, right? I mean, where are you? And that's what I ask people.
Right.
And they'll like, oh, I'm a 7. And I'm like, if you're a 7, you're going to abandon it. Right? Unless you're a 10, someone's else is going to steal your dream when you're going to, because it's not a matter of if someone's going to get knocked down on their path. They're going to get knocked down. It's if, are you going to get back up? Right.
Exactly.
And so I love your attitude and just your outlook and stuff. So we talked about mentors. You mentioned it several times here just a moment ago. You know, that's pretty much a very consistent theme through everyone I've talked to is they've got a mentor, somebody they want to, you know, emulate. And again, it's, you know, interesting, funny that the people that people listen to, right? They're listening to people that's life are a disaster. They have no success and they're asking them advice about something, you know, unless it's what not to do, you know, then maybe it would be good. But if they knew, they wouldn't be in the situation, right? So, I mean, you have to choose mentors and people that really have what you want or, you know, somebody that you can really respect and see as a successful person. Yeah. So, you know, you mentioned some big points there about the impact, and I think, you know, we're talking about influence, our own influence. But the other side of influence is the influence others have on us. Right? And, you know, it also brings up almost every podcast about the 5 people you hang around the most with, you're going to be the 6th, right? And so the people you hang around with really do, whether you realize it or not, they have an influence.
That's true.
On, you know, everything on your life, right? Yeah.
That's true.
So getting around the right people, seeking out people of influence can give you influence. Because, you know, another major part of, you know, success and life and moving forward, that influence and contacts and good relationships do, is it can give you access. It can give you access to things that you otherwise maybe would have never been introduced to. I mean, even, you know, I deal a lot in the world of finance and you know, money, and I'm into, you know, trading and different things like that. And I cannot tell you, just recently even, some people that I was able to go to Mar-a-Lago right before Thanksgiving and, you know, to Trump's estate and met just an incredible group of people there that I'm now working with, that I'm getting, you know, that have given me some information and given me access to things that I never thought I would have access to. Right. So access and the people, you know, because you never know, you know, what one, you know, contact, one person, and they lead you to someone else that can open major doors for you. Or maybe you help them and you don't even know necessarily, who they are, how they may help you someday, but that comes back to you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fantastic. I've given the sign here that we're running out of time. So,
Sure.
if you think back, right, is there anything that you would have like, oh my God, what was I thinking of? Why did I do that you'd like to do different, or you'd like to, maybe this may be a two-part, or maybe it's the same question, advice to someone younger? Somebody, if you look back at
Right.
yourself when you were a really young girl, what would you want to tell yourself, or what would you want to tell someone that age?
I would say definitely like what we were talking about, like the friends, like watch who you hang out with, because I think that can definitely have a big influence on you. Like, show me your friends, and we'll show you the future. I think that's a big thing. Like, really watching who you hang out with. If you are going in the wrong direction, like turn back and go in the right direction. Also, I think who you marry, for instance, is really a big important thing, and it can affect your life in negative or positive way.
Right.
And even though I was in a bad situation, I overcame that. I feel like, going back, I would have like been a little bit more careful on that, like who I dated, and really just like respecting myself more, because I feel like if you have like that self-respect, like now, like that I'm out of that situation, I respect myself more. And so I'm more conscious, like, hey, I'm not gonna, if I see that somebody's not respecting me, I'm not gonna allow them back in my life and give them access. So I think just like really guarding your heart and being careful of who you're giving access into your life is really important. Whether it's like relationship or friends, just really,
Right.
being careful, guarding your heart. And like my mom and dad have been like one of my biggest fans and supporters. At times, they would be like, she's not going the right direction, she needs to turn back around. But like my dad has always had my back. I have to give him credit because like he's my hero. Like, I love my dad. He's got me out of anything I've ever got into that I shouldn't have been in. He's like the best person in the whole world to me.
Yeah.
But my dad has been the biggest influence in my life out of anybody, I would say, and he's had my back through everything. So thank you, Dad. But I would definitely say, like, just being careful who you hang out with, and your relationships that you have is really important.
Well, I can tell you, if you're a young girl right now and you happen to be listening to this, or maybe somebody sent it to you right here, exactly what she just said,
Right.
can completely make just a massive difference in your life and your future. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for all your wisdom. And I can just
Yeah.
tell you're just a very, very kind person. You're a humble person. And you're a very, very successful person. And so
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And it was great
Yeah.
having you on the podcast.
Oh,
I
I'm so
can't wait
glad
to
to be
see
here.
where this goes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, folks, that's it. Your influence is incredibly powerful. Remember that.